Keen to keep primary school children in school and also improve their nutrition, our next guest set up an NGO that provides lunch in school to more than 1,600 children. We live out loud with the founder of Food for Education, Wawira Njiru, next. Hello and welcome to Sheila Lives Out Loud. I'm glad you're on this channel. Click subscribe and hit notifications, and should you see anything that you like on this show, please share the video so that we can spread the good news. And we're living out loud at the waterfront. Karen, you've arrived. Be sure to pop in and enjoy a great day out with friends and family. Our guest is Wawira Njiru, the founder of an NGO called Food for Education. Wawira, it's so wonderful to meet you.
So nice to meet you.
Reading about you, you're a lady of many interests, accomplished and a scholar too. And I can't help but wonder, when you were growing up, did you ever think that you would be responsible for 1,600 children eating lunch every day in school?
When I was growing up, my dad said that one day I saw Mother Teresa on TV and I was like, I want to be like this woman, which I can't remember, and I can't remember really wanting to be like Mother Teresa. But since I was young, I knew I wanted to do something for one or two people, but not for 1,600 every day. So even when I started Food for Education, my big goal was to feed 100 people, 100 children every day. And so I never imagined that it would get as big as it is right now.
At some point, you set up the foundation and you had a very exact number, 100 people. What fired you up to even want to set up the foundation? Because for a lot of people, you'll go to school, you'll go to campus, you get a degree and you find a great job and make potloads of money and buy a big house and live happily ever after. That didn't quite happen, did it?
No.
It could still happen, you know? It could still happen.
Yeah, it could. I mean, my goal was never, like, I don't remember a time in my life where my goal was to be rich and to make a lot of money. So, of course, like everyone else, I wanted to be comfortable, have 3 meals a day and live, you know, in a nice place and things like that. But since I was young, I really thought about my place in the world and what I was contributing. And so the things that I'd been given as not just obvious things that I should have, like education, like a family where, you know, I don't have to struggle what to eat and things like that, as an opportunity to now use what I'd been given to create change for other people. And so that's the basis of why I started this school feeding program.
In talking about food, you have studied nutrition, and nutrition is very close to your heart. You understand it from the inside, you understand it from the outside as well. In being able to, what you've just mentioned, in growing up with privilege, and I say privilege in that the fact that you can have 3 meals a day, that is already privilege. But you were also able to study outside the country, so that's more privilege. And to give back, what made you want to do it?
When I went to university in Australia and I was doing my degree, I was learning about nutrition, the impact of nutrition, which, I mean, I had an idea, but didn't really know the nitty-gritties of how, like, you know, if you don't get enough nutrition before you're 5, it affects you for the rest of your life, brain development, physical development. So I connected the dots between that, and I'd grown up in the area we work in, one of the areas we work in right now, Ruiru. I'd seen a lot of kids who are not getting what they should have out of school. You know, for me, I went to school and my parents would push me. They'd be like, what do you need? You need a textbook, we'll buy it. You need food, you will get it. You know, you need this. All the things you're basically given the tools to succeed. And I'd seen a lot of children who hadn't succeeded in school. They'd spent 8 years in school. And I think a friend of mine described it recently, like schools sometimes for a lot of children is just a daycare. You know, they're there, but they're not learning. They're not getting what they should be from the experience of being in school. And one of the things that combined with the education I was getting was that nutrition was a big thing that was now making school not as beneficial for children as it should be. And so that's why I started that, because it was just a mixture of my background, having grown up in Ruiru and seeing that around me, and also having the knowledge, the back knowledge of what the impact of nutrition is.
So where did you get started?
I started when I was in Australia, still doing my degree. I was in my second year of uni, and I'd just been there for a little, close to 2 years. And I'd volunteered for different organizations, but none of them are working in Ruiru, where I wanted to start and where I felt the most connection to. And so I decided to call a few friends, do a small fundraiser. I made Kenyan food for them. We raised $1,680 Australian dollars, which was around 125,000 shillings. And then we started a school feeding program for 25 children. We built a small kitchen, bought a jiko, and started a school feeding program for just the 25 kids to come and eat.
How did you select the school? What criteria did you use?
So we selected the school based on the proximity to the church. So this was the closest school where the children could walk, have lunch, and then go back before lunch break was over. The teachers helped us select the children, the 25, because it was a school of around 700 students then. So it really they helped in terms of identifying the children who really needed help.
Moving from 25 to 1,600, how many years has it been?
It's been, so from 2012, so it's been around 6 to 7 years. Part of that, I did my degree, I finished it, I moved back home, I started a master's, I stopped the master's, and then I decided to now work on this full time. So since now I was working on it full time is from 2016, and then we started really like growing in terms of building building a new kitchen and being able to expand to reach more children.
In expanding and stopping the master's course and taking it full term, that meant you've got to rely on community a lot more. You were no longer just delegating, because with 25 children, then you send, you talk to the church and you let the church and the teachers handle things. But now you're right smack in it, and you've been able to construct a kitchen. Tell us more about that.
So the kitchen, we constructed it 2015 and 2016. We really raised a lot of money from donations. We did a campaign called 44 Plate. A lot of people gave us money, which is so generous of people. And we're just saying that if you help us do this, we'll be able to feed 1,000 children from this kitchen. And now we've surpassed our goal by feeding 1,600. And so basically the transition from moving from 25 to 1,600, also we had to get people who are full-time on the staff, so you can't really have like volunteers coming in every day to cook for 25 children. But when you're doing mass production of food, you need people who are consistent, people who have the right certification and things like that. So you basically need to employ people. And so there was that transition for us to be able to do that. And then for me personally to now move from, this is just a thing, actually my parents used to call it a hobby. This is just a hobby, and now it's a full-time job that I do and everyone else around me does.
In raising the money, because you were no longer in Adelaide, and you're not cooking and making the mutukanyos and the chapos and
forcing white people to buy it.
Now you're raising the money from here.
Yes.
So how do you do it? Who do you approach? What is it that you get up to fundraise?
Oh wow, that was one of the most challenging things, because when I came back, I just had a few friends. I didn't have enough networks, and I knew my family. I hadn't been here for 4 years, and the 4 years before that I was in high school in a boarding school, so I didn't really have networks and things like that. So it really, because I moved back in 2014, it was around 1.5 years of building, telling people this is what we're doing, this is why it's important, and kind of communicating that, meeting people and things like that. So when we started 44 Plate, we had a team of volunteers who were tweeting and letting people know online on social media, this is what is happening, this is why we need to give 44 Plate. And so the team really helped in terms of pushing that, because I wasn't social media savvy. I don't think I've ever been that social media savvy. It was them basically who now took up the vision and then carried it on social media, because they were really good at it. And then with that came more people wanting to get involved, because we were creating images of people. Once they gave us money, we'd put their picture on an image to say they gave 44 Plates, and people would really want to have their image as their profile picture or something like that. So we were like, oh, if you want an image, You just have to give us money, and then, you know, we'll do
Everybody's
this.
looking
Yeah.
to be acknowledged
Yes.
and to be seen. Okay.
Yes.
So in many ways, it's good. It's not
Yes.
just having your picture for pictures purposes. That picture is also serving a need. Sometimes you can actually sponsor a child right through a whole year of education in terms of there are other ways of donating and tapping into food for education. So tell us about that, because yes, there's the fundraising,
Yes.
but there's other ways that you can be more committed and be more consistent.
Different people engage in different ways. So there are people who give for meals, so they give lunch meals. Right now we're costing at around 30 shillings for a meal, and so 25 to 30 shillings. And so there are people who will decide to feed X number of children, and so they'll give money monthly for those number of children. One of the challenges we had was that our children would perform really well because they're getting food, they're able to learn, you know, we're achieving our goal, but then they don't have money to go to high school. They get called to these good high schools, and then they don't have the school fees, and the parents can't afford, because this is why they needed meals in the first place, because they're from very low income families. And so there are people who come in and sponsor them through high school, and that has such a big impact, because you can imagine getting 350 marks after KCP or 400 marks, and there's nowhere you can go. You know, you have a letter saying you should be in this school, but when you look at the fee structure, it's very heartbreaking. So those are some of the ways.
But I'm looking at what you do, and I'm thinking Roro is not the only place that, you know, it started in Roro.
Yeah.
But it has to burst its banks,
Yeah.
like a good river must.
Yes.
When it's doing a good thing and the goodwill is there, then it must burst its banks and it must help others. And scaling up and helping more, what's in the pipeline?
Yeah, there's a lot in the pipeline, especially this year. We're looking now to work in more counties. We're trying to do that more systematically rather than just going dispersed in different parts of the country, because the thing with food is it's a huge expense and it's a recurrent expenditure.
Exactly. Just because I eat on Monday doesn't mean
I
don't
want to
need to eat on Tuesday.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like shoes, for example. You can say, I'll give you shoes until you outgrow them, you know, and something like that. So it has to be very systematic, and also it has to be in a way that is sustainable, because they're kids. You can't tell them, we're giving you food for this term, but next term there'll be no food. Exactly.
Or
Yeah.
even worse, there's
Yes.
nothing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so there's no need of starting something like that. And so what we're doing right now is looking at how we can spread as per counties, looking at how we can work with more counties and look towards scaling in that form of in that strategic way, instead of being around
Haphazard
everywhere.
and just thinking,
Exactly.
okay, but we're here, but here.
Yeah.
Are you open to partnerships with others? Because you've made it your full-time career. And it could be a full-time career for someone in Lamu, for someone in Taita, for someone in Mandera. Are you open to partnering with individuals like yourself who believe in nutrition and who can be just as passionate? Perhaps that could be the model.
Yeah, definitely. I
across the
mean,
land.
we've met people who wanted advice in terms of schools, setting up school feeding programs. Also, if someone came with an idea for partnership and they'd want to get help from us in terms of setting up, we're always open to doing that. The challenge we found is a lot of times it's very expensive, so people will, you know, unless someone is very rich, it's very difficult to keep running a school feeding program. And so we're really open and encouraging more people to now take on, you know, we can really help you in terms of knowing how to source for food, how to cook it, how to distribute it, because we distribute out of one kitchen to all the schools that we work in, and models like that. And really, we're an open book. That if anyone wants to learn, if anyone wants to work with us, they can come.
Looking at the challenges that you face, because now you're home, now you're in it, what sort of challenges do you face? Of course, the money is there, but on a personal level, what are those moments where you sit back and you're like, man, what are those things that you struggle with sometimes?
I actually think the personal ones are usually more than the money ones, because I feel like if you overcome what's inside, all these things like money and all that comes to you, like opportunities and things like that. But you have to have that inner self-belief in yourself and things like that. And so because I started the organization when I was 21, I've really grown up with it. Like, I've really become an adult per se as the organization grows. And one of the biggest challenges for me personally has been now coming into, I'm not just a small person. You know, I'm offering employment to people. You know, I'm able to go into a meeting and say that this is what I've achieved and this is what I've been able to do, and also sort of be the advocate of these children, because a lot of times many people are not thinking, you know, a lot of Kenyans I meet are always like, kwani kids don't eat in schools, you know, but the reality is a lot of public schools, if they don't have someone who set up a school feeding program for them, they don't really have a school feeding program. And so that comes with a lot of, you know, you have to sort of be very courageous, be very brave, and also sometimes you'll find people who say, oh, but you don't know enough, you know, you're just so young, you don't know what you're saying, you know, I've been working in this for 30 years and things like that. Or they've been working in a completely different industry, but they think the advice for that industry applies. Yes, exactly.
Let me tell you something.
Exactly. And when I was younger, that was something that when someone came to me and said, like, I don't think you can achieve that. And that is something I get quite a lot, because most of the times I'm going into a meeting with this big grand idea and someone will be like, oh, if it was someone else was telling me that, I'd believe it, but you, I don't think you can do it. And so when I was younger, it would be frustrating, but now it kind of fuels me when someone says, no, you can't do it. Then I'm like, oh,
let me show you.
Yes.
You sit down.
Exactly, yes. And that's the personal challenges of having kind of to grow up in the job and to show up and know that no one is going to advocate for you if you don't advocate for yourself.
Right.
And the job that you're trying to do is bigger than my feelings as an individual.
In closing, because I can't believe how quickly time runs and flies, but in closing, what would you like to see happen? In 5 years, in 10 years, you're going somewhere with this. When will you know you've arrived?
Knowing I've arrived will be when we as Kenyans start seeing children as an investment, as something that, you know, if we want to achieve things like Vision 2030, if we want Kenya to be a middle income country, we need to start investing in this population. And when they don't have things like food, if you give them anything else, let's say laptops.
It's in here and out.
Yes,
it
exactly.
Means nothing when here is empty.
Yes, and it can be the nicest, you know, classroom. It can be the nicest you know, digital technology that they're having to learn with. But if they don't have food, which is the basic, which all of us need to survive. And so knowing we've arrived is when we start having that conversation as a country of why is this happening in our schools and what can we start doing to change it, and then we start seeing some change. For example, we've seen some counties where they've started implementing school feeding programs, and that is really positive, because then you start seeing that there's a push towards, now this is an urgent issue, but it would be really good to see that on a national scale. And then now different counties or the national government that wants to scale, partnering with us to be able to go to other schools around the country.
And then we could come up with a model for Africa.
Yes,
and
definitely.
And of course the rest of the world. Who says we can't?
Nobody says we can't. And you know, right now, like, we're learning from an organization in India that feeds 1.6 million children. And it's, you know, a few years ago they'd have probably said, we're India, no one would want to learn from us. But everyone around the world is going there to learn from them, and we can be that teacher of the world and showing that this is what is possible if we put our heads together as a country and think, how can we solve this problem?
Thank you so much, Wawira, for
Thank
making
you,
the time to be
Sheila.
here and for doing what you're doing. It's an amazing job. You're a young soul going places.
Thank you so much.
We will walk with you.
Asante.
It sounded like a threat, though.
No, I take it as a good thing. Definitely. And you're someone who I want along my journey. So thank you so much.
There. I'll be right there with the pom-poms going, yay! We are definitely Team Food for Education, and we'd like you to get on board. No matter what you can do, every little counts. So be sure to follow the Food for Education sites. Be sure to check out my social media sites, because we are going to post those handles, and we've been doing it on the show and scrolling as well. So you've got no reason to not click subscribe, follow, like the above, all of them. Tafadhali. We're all set to sign off now. It's been a great conversation. Hit subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. We are at the waterfront. Karen, you have arrived. Be sure to pop in and enjoy a great day out with friends and family. Until the next episode, live out loud in all that you do. Bye for now.